Hello, Miss Roberta, Mayor Biassiata. I see you guys are connected.
Second audio check.
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Hi.
Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Those of you who are in the chamber today, by total coincidence, our board members to my right are not here. But we have perfect attendance on my left, so I want to congratulate all the people on my left that are here. Terry called me this morning. Unfortunately, he had a reaction to his booster shot yesterday.
Okay.
So he's at a temperature this morning. So we'll begin this morning. Roberta?
Ms. Duarte?
Yes, thank you, Reverend, and good morning. I call the GCRTA Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee to order at 9:03 a.m. Teresa, roll call, please.
All right. Ms. Duarte?
Here.
Ms. Moss? Here. Mr. Joyce is not here. Ms. Pale?
Here.
We have 3 committee members present.
Thank you, Teresa. We have one item on the agenda today. I'm excited to get an update from Carolyn Young and Mike Shipper, our 2 presenters covering the proposed fiscal year 2023-2027 capital improvement plan. Similar to recent years, presentations of the 2023-2027 capital improvement plan has been advanced in the calendar to allow sufficient time to include projects and or changes in the transportation improvement plan and state transportation improvement plan before the end of the current fiscal year. Caroline, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Good morning, Mrs. Duarte, committee members, and officers of the board. Today, we are here to give an overview of our 2023-2027 proposed capital improvement plan. The presentation will be given by myself, Carolyn Young, the manager in Office of Management and Budget, and Mike Shipper, the Deputy General Manager in Engineering and Project Management. The capital improvement plan started in September of last year giving various departments the opportunity to submit their capital requests for the next 5 years. In February, the Capital Program Working Group reviewed the submitted projects and prioritized the projects based on the 6 criteria, which we'll talk about in the next slide. In March and April, the Capital Oversight Committee finalized the projects based on the recommendations from the Capital Working Group recommendations, as well as funding, availability, and strategic plan of the authority. We are here to give the overview today of our CIP plan as well as our 2023 proposed budget. We will give a formal public hearing next month on May 10th, giving the public an opportunity for public comments, and then we'll ask the board to move it, the committee to move it to the board for full adoption. Listed here are the 6 criteria that are used by the Capital Working Group, with state of good repair, health and safety, and government mandates being the top 3 weighted criteria. The proposed 2023 capital budget totals $130.2 million. Projects are typically budgeted in 8 major categories. For presentation purposes, we have highlighted railcar program separately to actually identify the funding that is associated with that project. The following category budget has been identified as followed: $3.5 million for bus garages, $37.1 million for bus improvement program. This is our ongoing bus purchases. $9.1 million for equipment and vehicles, for non-revenue vehicles and infrastructure or the information technology upgrades. $21.6 million for facility improvements. $2.6 million for other projects such as planning studies and contingencies. $2.1 million for preventive maintenance, for operating reimbursement of capital labor. $30.5 million for rail car replacement for phase 1 of our heavy rail vehicles. $23.4 million for rail projects such as track rehabilitation, station upgrades, and signals. $300,000 for transit centers such as ADA enhancements. The 5-year proposed capital CIP plan totals $660.5 million, of which 44% of the allocation is in rail car programs and rail projects. On November 15th, 2021, President Biden signed the bipartisan infrastructure bill enacting the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, known as IIJA. This bill authorized up to $108 billion for public transportation, increasing the overall formula funds apportionments over the next 5 years. We are expecting the formula grants to increase 30% overall, estimated roughly around $13 million. Mike will give more detail regarding the various projects associated with IIJA in the further slides. The capital plan was developed using revenue neutral assumptions. The authority capacity to support its ongoing capital improvement plan depends on availability of governmental grants, local match funds, and the ability to issue bonds. In prior years, we have received funding from the state of Ohio, from the Urban Transit Program, as well as the Ohio Transit Partnership Program. Our current policy requires us to transfer a minimum of 10% of our local funds to the capital program. Over the next 5 years, we are expecting the following contributions: 4.9% from the federal government, 10.3% from the state of Ohio, 18.5% from the general fund, and 21.3% of unfunded projects which have the opportunity for competitive grants. Mike will discuss further the details that supports the proposed budget as well as IIJA.
Thanks, Carolyn, and members of the board, members of the committee. As I get started, a, a big piece of what we're doing is incorporating the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act funding into the 5-year plan. And, you know, before I get into the details, I do want to say that that act, I mean, you know, we in Ohio, we've worked very hard on the advocacy side, both on the federal side and the state side. And certainly we had 2 senators that were all over the passing of this, with Senator Brown being the head of the banking committee, which actually, in the Senate, the banking committee controls the funding for transit. So his committee actually controls the transit funding. And then we had Senator Portman out front leading the bipartisan effort to get the bill passed. So, you know, we're very fortunate that we had that. Our advocacy efforts over the years have helped us, and because of their involvement, we were able to get some things into the IIJA that are very advantageous to RTA. So there is a formula component, which Carolyn mentioned, and then there's also a competitive grant component. Within the IIJA, there are 13 new competitive grant programs in the transportation cluster, both highway and transit. 3 of those programs actually, if we are very skilled at our grant writing, and we have 5 years and 5 opportunities to apply for these grants, we will be able to bring in some additional competitive grant money in the new programs. One for rail cars, one for stations that are not key stations, but stations that need to be ADA upgraded, and another one for local bridge money to pay for bridges that we cannot fund under our normal formula funds. So those 3 programs are things that are new. The IIJA also increased significantly the amount of funding in some programs that we apply for annually. So the low, no emission grants have a huge increase. So we will be pursuing that. The capital investment grants, which is the small starts and new starts programs, have significant increases. So we are structuring the capital plan in a way that we may use our formula funds to fund planning and design in the first couple years, and then have the construction funds and the implementation funds in some of these projects as competitive grant opportunities to bring in that additional funding. So I want to lay that groundwork. And again, our congressional delegation did a great job for us in advocating for this bill. When it comes to the formula side, as Carolyn mentioned, the formulas have increased 30%. That's 13 million. When we put our match on that, times 5 years, there's $81 million added to our program. We're in the draft, and we're still drafting and fine-tuning the program, but as we're presenting it now, 14 million of that will go to our light rail track. 10 million will go to buses. 26 million will go to a combination of technology things. One, some very basic, you know, information technology upgrades, electronic record management upgrades, and fair system and fair technology things, so we can do a lot of the fair equity things that we had in our pillar study. Bus and rail maintenance facilities are getting 14 million. We have to take care of those facilities. We added some money to the bridges for the Central Viaduct, or Cuyahoga Viaduct, for the Waterfront Line Bridge, and for our access road bridge into our rail complex. So we were able to add money to those so that we can move those forward. And also we're adding money in the station program for our West 25th Street station, which was actually the first of the ADA key stations that was done, you know, 20-some years ago. And with the TOD project that we're looking at, that's an area where we should be doing some investment into that station. Because of this additional funding and other things that we've done, every year I also present our unfunded needs. the IIJA does not solve our capital needs, but it puts a pretty big dent in it. Right now, we're looking at 299. 3 years ago, I stood here and it was 445. And we moved from 445 to 401 to 344 and now to 299. So we are, through the fiscal management that we've been doing, how we've been handling our stimulus funds, how we've been working the competitive grants, how we've been working with, the new funding from the IIJA. We're continually bringing this down, and that is really important. Some of the things that are unfunded here are still unfunded because we're looking at competitive grants to fill the funding gap. So the rail vehicles, we have a lot of things, and I'll talk about our competitive grants as we move forward. Rail facilities, we still have funding gaps. In track, we have funding gaps, but we have programs to help us, fill those gaps. Same thing with buses and the Metro Health BRT. Technical support, even though we're putting a pretty good chunk into the technical side, that was probably one of our areas where we were way, way behind in terms of our funding. So we're trying to catch up. Our bus and rail maintenance facilities still need additional funds, as well as our bridges, stations, and other things. When it comes to securing the additional funding, as I said, the FTA formula grants now have us at a baseline of $71 million a year. 3 or 4 years ago, our capital program, our annual program was about $75 million a year, period. So that, the federal side now is almost where we were for the whole program a couple years ago. And that's one reason why this, unfunded projects are going down. We're still working with ODOT a lot. The ODOT Office of Transit still has $70 million a year for the whole state. Last year we were successful in getting $9.5 million of that. A few years ago we got $13 million of that. This year we're hoping to get back closer to that 13 level. And those grants are in process. And then, we're always looking for the other competitive things that are going on. And with the IIJA, there's many of those opportunities, and we'll be doing that. So last year, in the bus program, we brought in over $25 million of competitive grants through Ohio EPA, through their Volkswagen settlement funds, through ODOT, through the Urban Transportation Program, through NWACA, through the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program. That's every other year. So this year, we're not going to have a shot at that. So we did really well last year. And then NWACA for our paratransit vehicles in the Section 5310. On the rail cars, ODOT did support us last year on the Ohio Transportation Partnership Program, and we did get a congressionally directed project from Senator Brown's office for $5 million. So those were all wins, and we'll be doing that again. On the light rail side, last year we were able to, through our state advocacy, change the state law to make our rail replacement program an eligible project through track. And we did put in an application for a significant amount of money, and we were able to get ODOT to fund one of the 8 projects in that program, and we are going back to them again this year to see if we can get the program back in for multi-year funding. A couple of our pilot programs also got funded for the OTP2 program. So the microtransit, which is coming to you later today, and the Baby on Board program, both were able to get ODOT OTP2 funding last year. This year, because of the not only the IIJA, but other things, we have a number of grant opportunities that we are proposing on, and we've integrated some things into the 5-year plan so that these projects will be in the Transportation Improvement Program, they'll be in the State Transportation Improvement Program, They will have project identification numbers with ODOT, all things that show project readiness and make our grants more competitive so that we're just not making up projects and sending it in for a grant. So on the bus program, the big one there is the low-no FTA program, which now has like 4 or 5 times the funding it used to have. And this would be our pursuit to bring in electric vehicles for our electric vehicle pilot program, which was in our strategic plan. The rail car, we've already turned in our RAISE grant. We've already turned in community project funding grants to our congressional delegation. We've already submitted a letter of interest to ODOT and are now actually doing the formal grant for the OTP2 program. And then in July will be the first shot at the new FTA rail vehicle replacement program. And that's again, that's a 5-year program. It's a multi-year funding, and we're gonna make a pretty big push to close our funding gap between that and ODOT with that new program. On the light rail track, we're going to go back to ODOT for the track funding, which is their transportation Advisory Council. East 79th Street Light Rail Station. Last year, we put some funding into the capital program for this, for the design and part of the construction. With the new FTA competitive grant, we will be submitting this one for that new program to get stations that are not key stations, but still need to become ADA accessible. Metro Health, we are currently we finished the study of that last year. We're currently in the procurement to bring on a designer, and we are now in the Federal Transit Administration's project development status for that project. So it's now on the radar. It's listed as a project. It's a real project. There's lots of steps we have to do to get the small starts funding, but we're starting those steps. So we're looking eventually to get $20 million for that project, and then also looking at money from ODOT Track for that project. Track funded the health line very significantly, so there is precedence for this, and we'll be pursuing that. Our Central Rail Access Road Bridge is something that we really need, and it's one of those things that we used to call, we were calling orphan bridges, because there's no funding source that will pay for it except for us. But now there's a new program for local bridges in the federal highway. So we are in the process of getting this project eligible for that program. And that program will come out in July. And then we're looking at some more pilot programs on the microtransit to expand that, as well as with ODOT for some fair equity technology, so that we can, as we go forward with the Masabi contract, in our work with NeoRide, there's a lot of other things that we can add to that that will be really beneficial to our customers. So we're looking for some ODOT funding in that area. Next steps will be, normally we do this as one presentation and public hearing. We're doing this a little different this year for 2 reasons. One, because of the influx of the funding, and want to give you a good umbrella of that. The other is that on May 10th, I'm not going to be here. Joe Schaefer will be standing in for me on our detailed project-by-project list for next year, and Carolyn and Kay will be doing the public hearing and presentation. And then we'll be bringing the capital program to the board for award and approval at the next board meeting on May 24th. And with that, Carolyn and I are available to take questions from members of the committee and members of the board.
Hey, Roberta, are you, I know that this is your chair, but as vice chair of the committee, do you want me to recognize people that are sitting in the room? I'm not sure if you're able to see.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's great. I'm going to just asking, but thank you, Karen. Appreciate that.
I'm sorry, we couldn't make out what, I couldn't make out what you said, Mr. Ortega.
Was that a yes, Roberta?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so are there any committee meters or board people that are in the room that would like to make a comment? I see Ms. McCall have her hand up. Go ahead.
I just wanted to, first of all, just commend RTA, all the work on the capital improvement program. Oh, there we go. Teresa has the magic touch. I just want to commend RTA on all the work on the capital improvement program. I believe when I first came on the board, I chaired this committee, and it was not as exciting as it is today. It was all about the unmet needs and no money. And to see where we are today with how we're ticking down that unmet needs list, it says a lot. I don't want to minimize the importance of some of the things that was said. The fact that rail is on the track list is not, that's a really big thing. And so when you hear ODOT and you hear programs about funding rail was never on their agenda. It took a lot to get that done. And so kudos to RTA with the support of NOAC, of course, and others who helped make that lift. I do think that it is beneficial for India to send a letter thanking our congressional delegation for their hard work on the IIJA, actually including the president. And then also saying, you know, we appreciate this, and as we continue to talk about infrastructure needs and public transportation, because it's popular today, so you may as well keep the iron in the fire while it's hot. Also include our current unfunded needs, because I think it would be important to show them, okay, your grant helped us do this. The new grant programs are allowing us to apply for that. In addition, we still have unmet needs of the following. And I think the more that you can do that and articulate that, our delegation loves to see that, those charts that they tell us transit board members to go up there and lobby for. I think if you put them on record now, say thank you, let them know we still have some unmet needs while they're, you know, before they go out on recess, I think it'll go a long way. It gives them something that they can use. They can say, hey, this works, but also it lets them know that we're paying attention too. And so I just wanted to just chime in and just say, it's actually good to see that list down to 299, which is still a lot. It's not satisfactory. I'm not saying we're satisfied with it. The last thing I will say that I do hope into the future that RTA does come back and look at as we move forward. There was a lot of conversation over the past years about expanding rail, which we know is our rail service, our heavy rail service. We know it's very expensive and it's a lot of money. But I do think there's some opportunities to at least think into the future while we have all this planning money and at least put that to rest one way or the other. But it's just something to think about for future moving forward. So I just wanted to say kudos and thank you.
Thanks for the suggestion. We'll absolutely move forward with that. I think that's a great idea. And to be able to explain the gratitude that we have for being able to help us chip away at that $500 million number is really important. So the team's been working really hard on being able to get that down. I'm very happy that we're now, I see a 2 in front of there instead of a 5. So good job.
Any other comments? Yes, go ahead, Mayor Weiss.
Thank you. Just echoing Valerie's comments, congratulations on the hard work. I know we talk about applying, you know, submitting a grant here and a grant here, but we fully appreciate how much work each and every one of those take to prepare and submit. So great job on that. Just curious if you could talk a little bit more just about the criteria that you use for the allocation, because obviously we've all been talking about what we're short. So how do you make that those decisions? I saw the percentage, the weighting, but how strict is that? Sort of a guideline, and then you kind of massage it from there, or is that a strict allocation? Just
So
curious.
this is a strict guideline that we use every year during our capital planning session. So these are the 6 criterias that we put scoring to it. So based on the submissions that we get from the various departments, the capital working group will look at the projects, discuss the projects, based on the strategic plan, try to align that with funding as well. And then they go to their own corners and do a ranking based on how does it impact our state of good repair? How does it impact the overall infrastructure of the organization?
Thank you.
Reverend Lucas?
Certainly, I want to echo our congratulations to the department the hard work that you've been doing, and I've been watching these numbers go down. I know this isn't a firm number, but about how many new buses you think will be on the road this year?
That's fine, yeah. Yeah, Reverend Lucas, let's see, we have orders now for 20 that'll be going into service. Actually, we have 20 that we just are on the property that are ready to go in service. Plus, we also brought in the Healthline vehicles this year, 16 Healthline vehicles in January, another 20 that are on property for CNGs, and then we also have some paratransit vehicles that are coming. Yeah, so, and then going forward, our goal is to bring on 35 vehicles a year. So that's kind of our goal, to stay in a useful life of 12 to 14 years. So, so this year we will be bringing in a little more than that. So going forward, some of the additional funding, that 10 million is equivalent to about another 20 vehicles. But then, but that's our target. Our target's to bring in 35 vehicles a year, and we're doing that. In 2022, we will definitely.
That sounds like about 44.
Well,
And I think we need to make quite a bit of noise about that.
sure.
It's a lot of vehicles that we're going to put on the road, new vehicles. Now, how many of them are electric?
Right now, none of them are. So, and we get that a lot. One of the things that we've been trying to do is, because the number of our vehicles that exceed our useful life are above our target, the electric vehicles are expensive. And there's some, so we are going to use that competitive program as the vehicle to bring in electric vehicles, and use our formula program for our hardcore, strict bus replacement that we need to do. So
The reason I ask, when I was at the National Convention, they were talking about the programs they had for new vehicles, the electric vehicles and so forth. And I want to know where we get into that.
yeah, and so we are behind other agencies, but as we've been waiting, the technology is getting more robust and the vehicles are getting more reliable. And now there is a program that is actually very well funded that we're going to compete for. So stay tuned. In May, we'll be turning in an application to fund 10 electric buses plus the charging stations needed to support those buses. And that program has high funding for the next 5 years. So we may get funding for all 10, we may get funding for 4 of them, but we'll have 5 shots at that funding to get to that 10 vehicle pilot. Once we pilot the electric vehicles, then we will know how aggressive to be in the future. So that's kind of the strategy.
How are you doing on the double decker?
No.
I'll hop in on that one. We're not there yet, Reverend Lucas.
Are there any, go ahead, Luce.
Yes. With the new vehicles, is there additional training for our operators?
Oh, yeah. Anytime we bring in a new fleet, there's training for the operators, there's training for our maintenance staff. The vehicles have a lot of technology in them. So yes, there is. The seating arrangement's a little different. The sight lines from the seat for the operator is a little different. They have to get used to the size. So there is training for operators for new vehicles. And again, training for our maintenance staff so that we take care of them. And also with our maintenance planners on how we put the kits together to make sure we're doing all the preventative, predictive, corrective maintenance on them so that we take care of them.
Is there anyone else that has a comment, either online or offline?
Just have a comment, and being the chair of the ad hoc tech committee, thank you for the additional project funding. I think it was the second highest on the list there, so I'm really excited about that. Thank you so much.
In conclusion, I guess what I would say is that I'd like to recognize Mike Shipper and his team. I think that particularly Ms. McCall and Reverend Lucas, we've all sat here and we've been watching these things over the years and how long it is. But I think that touching upon what Mayor Weiss brought up is that this particular team has been very good over the years in getting projects shovel-ready so that when we actually present them for a competitive bid, we have these superior projects and they look tangible and they're understandable. So I think that's why we do so well. So I just wanted to recognize Mike Shipper and his team understanding how hard that is to do. Is there any other comments? So Roberta?
Yes.
I think that the next step is that this needs to, this is only informational?
Yeah, today's informational, because we wanted to give you the umbrella, and then next, on the 10th, we'll have recommendations to go to the full board.
That was a really great presentation, I think. Roberta, you can close your committee, I think.
Wonderful. Thank you, Karen, to Mike and Caroline again for the excellent presentation. Since we have no further questions or comments, I ask for a motion and a second to adjourn the GCRTA Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Yes, second, Luz.
Gave the second. Mhm.
Wonderful. Thank you. Now, the GCRTA Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee is now adjourned. Thank you.
All right, we're ready for the trustee board meeting, Teresa. I'm calling us to order. Have the roll call.
All right. Mayor Biassiata,
Here.
Ms. Duarte,
Here.
Mr. Joyce is not here. Mayor Kumar,
Here?
President Lucas,
Present.
Ms. McCall. Here. Ms. Moss.
Here.
Ms. Peo.
Here.
And Mayor Weiss.
Here.
We have 8 board members present.
Thank you very much. May we have the certification?
Mr. President, I first advise, that notice of this meeting has been posted more than 24 hours in advance of the meeting, that the usual notification has been given the news media and other interested persons, and that all requirements of the Ohio Revised Code and rules and bylaws of this board regarding notice of meeting have been complied with.
Thank you very much. May we have a motion to approve the board meeting for March 29th?
So moved.
Second,
Is
Karen.
there a second? All right, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Aye.
Thank you very much. May we have a motion to approve the meeting for March the 29th?
So moved.
Second?
Luz, second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. We will now have public comments, and they are at 2 minutes each, and we'll start with people who are present. Public comments. Yeah, anything you want to talk about? On the agenda. Anything on the agenda? Sorry.
Oh, pardon, the mic is muted.
To the Kane family for the passing, and anything I can do, I'll be glad to do so. I would ask, we have it in writing, but there are people who are not able to attend today to this meeting. And some people who are not physically able to even read or have an understanding of some of these items. For items F, I, J, and K, which are, one of them is the repealing of Chapter 637 of the Codified Rules and Regulations of the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority. And J is amending Section 620.01 of the Codified Rules and Regulations of the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority. That's foreign to many people. And Mayor Weiss, I'm a graduate of Shaker Heights High School.
a successful one, thank you. And during my tenure, or during my time of being at Shaker Heights High School, I overcame many barriers of racism and many other obstacles, being my family, being leaders in the community. And one of the challenges that I did face was that people didn't understand what was really going on. And I ask that as you all, before the meeting closes, to give the public and the private sector some understanding, who are not able to be here today and who have not had an opportunity to voice their concerns regarding these items, F, I, J, and K. And thank you very much. I'll be back for non-agenda items. I have plenty of things for you all this morning. God bless you.
Anybody else? Public comment?
Yes, good morning. My name is Fred Barkley. I am legally blind and I am 59 years old. I'm going to tailor my comments, or just specify my comments in relation to my experiences on RTA. I wish I had time to go over this agenda packet, but because I am legally blind, because of the stresses that the disabled go through in this city, just trying to navigate from day to day, a luxury like having the time or the place to really go over an agenda like that is not applicable to me at this point in my life, but it soon will be. But during the very brief time that I have, let me start off by saying that an entire culture change needs to happen with your riders, who are supposed to be professional drivers. And I really want to emphasize this. The changing of the culture needs to happen on the east side of Cleveland. I've ridden the buses on both sides of Cleveland, and there's a night and day difference between how the drivers on the east side and the drivers on the west side deal with the public. I'm going to use an example just this morning, which is not my example, which I should be using. Just this morning, coming downtown on the health line, the number 10 driver, she refused to blow the horn for the number 11 driver that was going up to Cleveland Heights. And because
10 seconds,
she
sir.
just didn't care, a cook missed his job assignment this morning, and he was livid. And
Time,
he
sir.
went off. And this is only scratching the surface of where we're at. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else in the room for public comment? All right, then. Oh, yes.
Sorry, you cannot see me, I know. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
In our agenda right now, there are two exciting things I would like to address. One is the microtransit programs we will put out, and also the easy fare. However, with these two things put in together, I hope this kind of excitement could have happened even earlier to benefit all the riders, and which will actually help GCRTA to put yourself on the map as a public service for the riders, instead of what people have been thinking, you only care about yourselves. The situation here is the better technology coming out day and day, and we want to adopt them, which is a good thing. But we do have to also realize the little tricky stuff with the people who may not really want to go along with this kind of trend. So our spectrum right now is getting even farther and wider than before, because you do have people, they prefer using cash. They don't even like credit cards. So the public educations on pushing out smart cards and to go with our systems, with all the fare capping, all these goodies, we have to have a good communication to to go with our public education on that. And unfortunately, GCRTA has been very busy with the funding, which is a very serious issue, but we do need to have our
30 seconds,
talents to
ma'am.
put into our public communication as well, to let people know we are actually doing the improvements which everybody should consider and to try, because it will benefit lots of people. Sure, there will be details we probably have to go through other meetings to get them out.
10 seconds.
But please understand that we really appreciate the efforts, and we want this kind of trend keep going. Make our life exciting. Thank you.
Any other persons here? All right, if not, do we have anybody on the line?
We have 5 callers on the line.
All right,
Caller, extension 0950, you're on the air.
Hello, caller.
Caller?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi, this is Carlita from Ward 1. And I tried to attend a meeting yesterday for RTA on the east side at a church. And by the time I got there, there was no notice that they were going to be there. So I'm interested in knowing how to attend the meetings that you have these people going out at and misrepresenting a schedule that we, or Eric Todd Stewart, referred you to use. They completely debunkled it. And that's all I have to say, and that should be addressed.
now, Doc, you have a,
Concerning the 48A and the 15 via Walden,
all right, Doc,
Reverend
or
Lucas,
the 15A.
Reverend Lucas and members of the board, a group, I'll come up there, Tony.
We can just keep that mic on. Yeah.
Thanks, Reverend Lucas and members of the board. I'm Flounce Caver, the Chief Operating Officer of the Greater Cleveland RTA. A group of individuals from RTA, from Natoya's External Affairs team and from my service management team were invited to the Lee Seville community meeting yesterday. We did attend that meeting at their request, along with some other public administrators from other organizations, where we talked about service within that area. It's kind of a follow-up, as Dr. McCall had us to discuss the 48 and the old 48A and the 15A, and we were invited and did attend that community's public meeting.
Doc, you can keep that mic on. Keep the green light.
all
should
right,
stay on.
so the meeting did take place. The meeting did take place. Is that correct?
Yes, you did. We were invited. We were there yesterday for the agenda time that was allotted for us.
All right, we were answering the caller. All right, next.
Chairman, I will add to what Dr. Kayer indicated. We provided a comprehensive presentation, PowerPoint, and following the presentation, we shared the PowerPoint with all attendees that were present.
All right. Very good. Next caller.
Next caller, please.
One moment, please. Caller extension 9716, you're on the air.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rita Montgomery. My concern is that for, it seems like a year now, we've been discussing the 48A, the 15A, the Next Gen program, and how these routes were removed, and the suggested proposal for a new 15A that would better reach the interior of the area, the residents in the interior of the area, and better connect them to the rest of the city via different modes of transportation, rail being one of them. And we're not receiving responses regarding that. I understand that there was a meeting last Tuesday that discussed this. I believe it was with the advisory committee. And
And I've been attending board meetings, advisory meetings, and it would just be nice, because I know you guys know who we are because we've attended so many meetings, that if the meetings aren't made public, that's what the agenda would be, to kind of let us know that. You have our contact numbers. Also, I'd ask you again to take a look at the suggested 15A, the new 15A.
30 seconds, ma'am.
And implement that. I'd also suggest that the board put the call-in number on the website, the RTA website, the 440-276-4600 number. And it would also be a good suggestion to be able to
10 seconds, ma'am.
have these meetings via Zoom so we could see the presentation that was just done. Thank you.
And next.
Caller extension 8330, you're on the air.
Yes. What about the 32 line that used to go on to the Cedar, though? That shouldn't have been taken off either. 32 line should have stayed there and on. And then the number 12 line should have been staying there too and all. The shaker. And so forth. Those buses should have stayed on the line. You see, and not only that too. And then increasing fares is not the option at all, because we living in hard times, and I think that fares should be decreased, especially those who got to ride public transportation day by day. They should be decreased some and all. And I think if fares be decreased, there'll be more riding. So this is something we need to look into. We need more buses on the line because people got to go to work, people got to get around and things like that. And we need to look into it too. And also the drivers should be considerate to wait on some
30 seconds, ma'am.
Who may be getting off that bus trying to catch another bus going. And all. Some drivers are disrespectful, and some of them you find are all right or pretty nice. But we need
10 seconds, ma'am.
That's what I have to say. More dick.
Thank you very much. All right, next caller.
Caller extension 0387, you're on the air.
Material company based out of California builds electric buses. I've been to their plant in Greenville, South Carolina twice. They make a solid product. You should look into it if you have not already done so. In reference to the meeting at Canaan Baptist Church, for something to be truly comprehensive as it applies to these bus routes that we've been talking about, you need to be truthful in your conveying of what you claim to be the facts. And in order for it to be factual, it needs to be truthful. I was misrepresented at that meeting yesterday. The number 50 that has replaced the number 48A runs the same route from 177th and South Miles to 131st Miles, and so there was no need to change the route, but increase the efficiency because it's the same route. All the public wanted was that the weekend service be put in place for the 48A, and that was all they wanted. Now you've caused a situation so that if somebody wants to get on the 15, they have to either walk 4 blocks from 131st and Miles, wait 15 minutes for the 48A, for the 48 Marymount to come, which would be the Cleveland Clinic heading that direction, or stay on the number 50 bus and not get to a transfer point till you get to 116th and Corlett. Whereas if the 48A was still in place, you would have 4 opportunities to transfer onto the 15 before, if the 48A was in place, before the number 50 even gets to a transfer point for the 15.
30 seconds,
Takes
sir.
8 minutes to get from 131st and Miles to Kinsman and 130th. If the 48A was in place, the 50 takes 15 minutes. In addition to that, it takes longer to get to the end point because of that. You did not increase the service, and you're taking away a one-stop ride to Shaker Square, which is a better transfer to the green and blue line. Clearly better transfer. And you should have said that at the meeting
10
yesterday.
seconds, sir.
And not said that my route suggestions don't work, because they do work. Tell the truth.
All right, thank you. I think we have one more.
Yes, sir. Caller extension 2137. You're on the air.
Hi, Chris Martin, City of Cleveland. I just have a few different questions. Why is there no memorandum of understanding between GCRTA Transit Police and the City of Cleveland? In 2018, you were renegotiating this agreement, and then you just let it expire. Why? Now that Cleveland is amending its fare evasion ordinance, will you commit the agency to citing non-payment of fares only under this amended ordinance and not the state statutes? Cleveland believes no person should be sent to jail over failure to pay for a $2.50 bus pass. Don't you agree? Why is there no civilian police complaint review board? You, trustees, promised this board within 1 year of hiring CEO Birdsall. Yet more than 2 years later, we are still waiting. Will your transit ambassadors perform fare enforcement? Proof of payment fare enforcement performed by civilians will help speed up every bus trip. Why are your transit ambassadors a part of the police department instead of being civilians? Trustees, do you care at all what your police force does?
30 seconds, sir.
Is that it? Are those all the calls?
Is that the last call, Patrick?
All right.
Yes, that was the last caller.
Thank you very much. All right, we will now move into our reports. Any of the chairpersons have a report from your committees? Anybody?
I'll say something. Yeah, we had this is Luz Peyo from the Ad Hoc Tech Committee, and we had a meeting last week, and it was very exciting information that was presented by Mike Lively. Talked about current projects, short-term and long-term plans, and some of which that you will be seeing in even in today's agenda regarding Easy Fare. So, and I'll let you know about any other future. On the next meeting, I'll let you know about the future meetings.
All right, anybody else? All right, I'm glad to see Chief Jones is here today. Chief, and also we just heard a little bit about the ambassador's chief is, we are pleased to say that the ambassador's program has been posted. Let me say that again, the ambassador's program has been posted. And so anyone who's interested in that position, please fill out your form and be glad to interview you. I'm very excited about that, and we have a civilian coming right behind it. So we're getting things done on that department. CEO?
Yes, I just wanted to, just quickly, not to create any back and forth at all, but to acknowledge the public comments that were given. So I did take extensive notes, and some of the items that were mentioned are in progress, as you mentioned, of course, for example, the Transit Ambassador Program. And also, we did advise multiple times to the public as well as board of our intent to have a review board that also is in the draft stage. So we do appreciate the input of the public, understand that things take time, they don't take forever, but they do take a little time to get them right. I also wanted to also address, I believe there was an item that came in regarding website and information. It was a little hard to hear, but I think the question was presentations archived. and being able to kind of hear what's going on. We do have that process, so we can definitely address that with the caller. I know that we're keeping those numbers in the back to be able to let you know how to log on and view these meetings if you're not able to attend in person. We understand everyone can't make the 9 a.m. Also, keep in mind that we did make, on behalf of the board, made the commitment to discuss at the next board retreat the idea of timings for board and also public comment. That has not left our minds as well. That will be programmed in later on this spring as we start to create our board retreat agenda. Also, the item of electric buses, I appreciate that. I wrote that down. Greenville, I'm very familiar with electric buses. There are a lot of competitive vendors out there to be able to kind of come up with the best and the brightest bus in a box, so to speak. We'll be reviewing all of that and coming back with recommendation after the grant process, potentially next year. Of course, we have that at top of mind as well. We want to stay ahead of the curve. Also, there's been a lot of conversation about an MOU with the transit police. This is something that requires a little bit more in-depth communication. We will not advise of that at this meeting. However, that has a historical relevance to it, and we do and continue to work with the City of Cleveland in all capacities, including special events, day-to-day operations, and emergencies, and we are not impacted by that at this time. So I just wanted to be able to advise of that. I appreciate all of the other comments, and they are written down, and we'll take them into consideration. Thank you.
Chief, did you have anything to say today?
I'm sorry, if there are any comments to be made, they're not coming through on the microphones.
Good morning, Reverend Lucas. Good morning to the board and Ms. Birdsong. Just to let you all know that the Transit Ambassador Program is moving along actually as scheduled. We do have quite a few applications in already for our transit ambassadors and our social workers. We are looking at hiring 10 people, 8 civilian transit ambassadors and 2 social workers that will be embedded with the transit police. So, and with regard to the Civilian Oversight Council, that is moving along. The operations manual is in the draft stages right now and is being reviewed by legal. So I just want to let everybody know who may have some concerns that things are not moving forward, that things are absolutely moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. I'm very proud of the work that's being done under your leadership. All right? Shall we now move to number 13, introduction of new employees, announcement of promotion.
So Reverend Lucas, if I may, at this time, we will actually have Scott Ferraro, who will be standing in for George Fields. George is virtual and with us online. However, we wanted to have a face to the presentation. Scott is head of our labor, and he will be filling in today.
Fresh from negotiations with the union. All right.
You're welcome, President Reverend
He's still
Lucas.
smiling. He's still smiling.
President Reverend Lucas, Ms. Birdsong, members of the board, it's my pleasure to announce our new hires and promotions for the month of April of 2022. So let's send congratulations to the following new hires. Sierra Baker, operator. Catherine Brown, operator. Steve Cannelly, maintainer of facilities. Kevin Danley, laborer. Shamira Darby, operator. Craig Davis, operator. Marquette Lewis, operator. Louis Mendez, operator. April Mitchell Odom, operator. Tara Smith, operator. LaShanya Toney, janitor. Eddie Withers, operator. And congratulations to our promotions in April of 2022. Nadine DeJesus, the new benefits manager. Denise Hill, electronic equipment technician. Danielle Lowry, material handler leader. And Marissa Mercado, district HR generalist. And finally, Thomas Richardson, Jr., material handler leader. Those are our new hires and promotions for April 2022.
Give it all a cheer. Thank you very much. All right, we now have our, anything before the resolutions? All right, introduction of resolutions. Are we ready, Teresa?
Yes, we're ready.
2022-29.
Right. Expressing the great sorrow of the Board of Trustees and the entire Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority at the passing of former Board of Trustees member Madeline A. Kane and expressing condolences to her family.
Motion?
Move adoption.
Second, Karen.
All right, shall we pause for 30 seconds in memory of our former board member? Amen. 2230.
Expressing congratulations to the employees of the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority who retired during the first quarter of 2022.
Is there a list of these?
President
Yes,
Reverend
there are
Lucas.
slides for
Yeah.
the.
President Reverend Lucas, Ms. Birdsong, members of the board, 2020 fourth quarter retirees, or first quarter retirees, I'm sorry, of 2022. Let's give a heartfelt thank you and congratulations to the following. Rhonda Branch, Benefits Manager. Rebecca Brown, Operator. Toya Brown, Operator. Tyler Frazier, Hostler. Derek Hamilton, Vehicle Servicer. Gregory Johnson Sr., Drafter. Derek Jones, Paratransit Operator. John Kiefer, Operator. Robert Koskovics, Heating and Air Conditioning Mechanic. All right. William Lowe, Transit Police Officer. David Montgomery, Marketing Assistant. Alonzo Rivers, Operator. Loretta Shelton, Operator. Sheila Spicer, Paratransit Operator. And Leo Zlobinski, System Administrator. I want to say thank you to all of them for their years of service here at the RTA.
All right, 2022-31.
Mr. Chair, I believe we need a motion and a second.
Move adoption.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you very much. All right, 2022-31.
Authorizing contract number 2021-053A with the Village of Mayfield and the City of Highland Heights to provide microtransit program services for a period up to 18 months in an amount not to exceed $119,197.50, RTA Development Fund Programming and Planning Department budget.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved. Mayor Royce.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
No one opposed? All right, so moved. 2022-32.
Authorizing contract number 2021-053B with AV Auto Media Incorporated, DBA Share Mobility, to provide microtransit program services for a period up to 18 months in an amount not to exceed $300,000. RTA Development Fund, Programming and Planning Department budget.
Any discussion? You have a motion?
Move adoption.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
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 Anyone opposed? I say again to the public who's here, these resolutions have been through committee, have been discussed, both staff and members of the Board of Trustees, and now they're here for final resolution. 2022-33.
Authorizing contract number 2021-089 with Geismar North America Incorporated for the purchase of a locomotive work car in an amount not to exceed $3,291,204.80. RTA Development Fund, Fleet Management Department budget.
Any discussion? We have a motion?
Move adoption.
Second?
Sharon, second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you very much. 2022-34.
Authorizing contract number 2022-001 with John F. Gallagher Plumbing Company for project 19.27 Hayden Garage HVAC replacement as specified and as required in an amount not to exceed $402,480. RTA Development Fund, Engineering and Project Development Department budget.
Any discussion? Have a motion, please. Second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
No, any opposed? Thank you very much. 2235.
Authorizing contract number 2022-018 with Masabi LLC to provide the Easy Fare mobile ticketing solutions for an amount not to exceed $2,700,000. RTA Development Fund, Intelligent Transportation Systems Department budget.
Any discussion? We have a motion.
Move adoption.
Second? Did I hear a second?
I second.
Good. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no? Thank you very much. 2236.
Authorizing contract number 2022-031 with Kronos Incorporated to provide Kronos annual subscription and support renewal for a period of 1 year in an amount not to exceed $135,800.91. General Fund, Innovation and Technology Department budget.
Any discussion? We have a motion.
So move, Luce.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no? Thank you very much. 2237.
Repealing Chapter 636 of the Codified Rules and Regulations of the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority.
All right, Dawn is here.
She may be online. She's not here in person.
Did she want to add anything? We were asked about this.
If she's not connected to the WebEx, she's probably watching on YouTube.
All right. Anyone from legal want to?
We have Cheryl that can weigh in if additional information is
Cheryl.
needed.
Ms. Pinckney, you want to pay attention to this? We're answering your J. Go ahead.
Thank you. As you are aware, this did go to committee, and we are at this point repealing this chapter because it is included in another chapter. And this has been a part of our update of our codified rules and regulations.
All right. All right.
So,
Any
wait,
discussion?
I would just add to that is for the benefit of people who aren't here, this is repealing our, it's about sexual harassment, and it's done in another chapter, is that correct?
It is repealing the sexual harassment policy that has been replaced in the next chapter that you will find that we are adopting. So it is a duplication of our sexual harassment policy. We're just putting it in the appropriate place.
And it's updated as well, right?
Yes.
If I can weigh in for a second. So, Ms. Moss, you're absolutely correct. We're finding we're taking a holistic approach just so that folks are aware of what's going on when you see these kind of code updates all the time. They can seem a little cryptic when you're looking at the language, so I understand Reverend Pinckney's concern. We have a lot of rules and regulations that we govern ourselves by, and quite honestly, when I did come into the position, I noticed that a lot of them had been a while since we had updated, and that's to be expected from such a large agency. So what we're doing is we're actually working with legal to review all of them. And so what we're doing is taking what we hope to be a simplified approach and adding maybe 2 or 3 of them to each meeting. So you'll probably see that on, it'll say code of, and then it'll give you a number. And we have a charting process that we go through and decide on which ones will go to what meeting based on how many we can get through within that month. So for example, for May coming up, you'll probably see 2 or 3 more, and we'll talk through that. We don't want to just give 40 of them, for example, because then it's too much and it's not really digestible. So we do start to parcel them out, and this is an example of that. The goal, I think, don't quote me, is to get through this within about another year, but we've got quite a bit. But we've done quite a few, and I think we're somewhere around 30 that we've already updated. So this is a good progress. Hope that helps.
Okay. Anything else?
Motion to adopt.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you very much.
Aye.
J, 2238.
Amending Section 620.01 of the Codified Rules and Regulations of the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority.
I take it this is the same thing to aye. Any discussion? May I have a motion?
Move adoption.
Second?
Well, just for the record, this is for an affirmative action plan. Just so that, when we're just doing these by number, so that people know what we're amending and we're changing.
All right. All those in favor, aye?
Is there a second?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you very much. 2239.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Cobb moved. Did we get a second on this?
Second.
Okay, thank you.
2239.
Okay, amending sections 642.01, 642.02, 642.03, and 642.04 of the Codified Rules and Regulations of the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority.
Any discussion? May I have a motion?
Should we say for the record what this one addresses?
If I can make a suggestion, this might help moving forward. Perhaps on the agenda moving forward, we can put the title along with the number for the codified rules, and that way people have a reminder of what we've already talked about at prior committee meetings, and that might also help the public understand in the translation process, but we can do that.
All right.
Okay.
And then all the attachments were included in the packet as well as online as well, so.
All right. I guess we're so familiar with it. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second. Oh.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you very much. 2240.
Authorizing the execution of a project grant agreement with the United States Department of Transportation, US DOT, for a fiscal year 2020 Build Grant Award for the Rail Car Replacement Program, Phase 1, RTA Development Fund, Engineering and Project Development Department budget.
That's what we've been hearing so much about. Is there a motion? Any discussion first? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you very much. 2022-41.
Amending employment agreement of India L. Birdsong as General Manager and Chief Executive Officer of the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority and authorizing the execution of the third amendment to that agreement.
All right, any discussion?
Reverend,
Yes.
if you'll indulge me, maybe we just comment on this item and the next
Please do.
one. Just for the benefit of the public, these are amendments addressing personnel and compensation for the general manager and CEO, and the next is for the executive director of internal audit. These are both two positions that report directly to the board, and this is the second year that we've had in place a compensation, an ad hoc compensation committee, which has met each of the last 2 years to review the performance of each of those two individuals. We look at performance, we look at market data, we work very closely with the HR department and make a recommendation to the board, which we did in executive session at our last meeting. And so this is the next step in this process. In keeping with our desire to stay very much in track with the rest of the performance reviews of the rest of the agency, we're bringing this before the board.
And certainly I want to say to Mayor Weiss, he's been a very, very competent and careful chairperson, and we appreciate the work that you have done as you brought this committee into fruition. All right, any discussion? If not, we have a motion. Second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you very much. 2022-42.
Authorizing a salary adjustment for Anthony A. Garafoli, Executive Director of Internal Audit.
All right, and Mayor Weiss, you want to have a word about this as well?
No, it's the same comment.
Same comment, all right?
I'll move approval.
All right. Second? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you very much. All right, we will now have our reports, coming first from the person who controls the finance of this august organization. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing very well, Reverend Lucas. Good morning again, members of the board. My name is Raj Gautam. I'm the Deputy General Manager of Finance and your Secretary Treasurer. Here to provide a high-level overview of most of the materials that are already included in your monthly package. And as has been the norm, let me get to the right slides. Okay. We'll start with a quick overview of the general economic conditions, especially the unemployment rate, which compare the monthly data for Cuyahoga County and Ohio, comparing it to the U.S. Unemployment rates. The U.S. unemployment rate for March 2022 stood at 3.6%, indicated in the red line. Ohio unemployment fell from 4.2% in February 2022 to 4.1% in March of 2022. Cuyahoga County unemployment rose from 4.1% in December 21 to 6.1% in January 22, and then to 6.6% in February of 2022. You have 4 calendar years of data. 2019 being the pre-COVID for comparative purposes. And we show the March 2022 ridership was up approximately 25% above the March 21 levels. On a year-to-date basis for 2022, ridership is 16.2% above 2021 levels. Passenger fares, March fare revenue amounted to about $2.3 million. It's 19.1% higher than March 2021, indicating obviously a slowish recovery. Also, I think the fares do reflect one of our biggest riding days, that was St. Patrick's Day, so those numbers are reflected in here. The fare revenue of $2.3 million is 15.1% higher than the budgeted amount. On a year-to-date basis, passenger fares are 41% higher than the same period in 2021. Sales tax, the largest unrestricted source of operating revenue for us for April 2022, which is based on January 2022's economic activity with a 3-month lag in when the activity takes place and when the cash gets collected. Is 10.1% higher when you compare it to previous April, 7.9% higher than budget. 18 of the 23 categories that make up the sales tax base were positive in April. Motor vehicles and watercraft, 15.6% higher. Online sales, 33.4% higher. Regular statewide sales, 11.3% higher. And with that, I'll entertain any questions or any comments.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Hi, Raj, could you do me a favor? Can you go back to the ridership slide? Because I think, is that a typo? Wait, no, not the right, go back one. It's not the ridership one. Go the other way, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Right here, passenger fares. It says in February it was 106.5% increase.
It's largely a timing issue, Ms. McCall. Sometimes these are cash basis numbers, so what could happen really is...
Was that as a result of the All-Star game, maybe?
All-Star game was in February.
Okay,
so that was part of
I just was wondering. And then really quick on the unemployment slide. Can you share with us any insights?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the unemployment number, and it seems like Cuyahoga County in and of itself is going in an the total opposite direction. Any indications as to why? Is it anything that's trending that we should know about? Why Cuyahoga County? Is it that more people are getting laid off? They're quitting their jobs in Cuyahoga County? Because it is excessively higher than obviously the U.S. and the state of Ohio's unemployment rate, and that's kind of concerning. But what's behind that number, if you know?
So the information is sketchy. I think these are trends that we notice and report. So many Ohioans still are not in the labor market. The participation rate, if you will, as they report these numbers, are roughly about 61%. And even though the Ohio job market is getting stronger, many Ohioans are still not in the job market and making it challenging for people to actually fill the positions, and we see that all across the board.
And do we have any indication, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Secretary, the comparison between Cuyahoga County and maybe some of our other job hub centers, like what's happening in Columbus, what's happening in the Akron, Canton area, as opposed to what's happening here?
We'll try to see if we can get that information in the next reports.
Okay, thank you. I shouldn't bring this up, but this is one of those moments where, remember George used to come all the time and would have his detailed reports for us? I really miss a George Zeller report right now. For the public who don't know that, George was an economist who came to every meeting, and he would give us these detailed reports, and in the questions we would ask, he would always have his reports, and he'd get up after Raj or somebody would speak and say, oh yeah, they're telling the truth. We need this increase, because here are all the facts that back up those numbers. And so it's a moment like this where I miss a George Zeller report, but thank you. Sorry.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other questions?
I was at a meeting the other day at another place, and they were comparing the number of, number one, jobs that have not come back, so that people are not using the system, and B, the number of people who now have decided that they can do better at their home than they were doing on the local place where they were working. And then the other one, of course, is as the downtown especially starts to open up more, then there should be an increase in that type of ridership. But I think our numbers are comparable to some of the other cities that we were examining. Mayor Weiss?
And I would just add, this is even more of a reason to move forward with our micro transit programs, the pilot that we approved today. So I think we are trying to address that issue as best we're able to. So, thanks.
All right, continue.
I think that was the report. That concludes
All
my
right,
comments.
thank you very much.
Very much.
As always, excellent report, excellent department. Hearing now from our general manager, who has no hours that she's not working and no hours that she doesn't call the president.
We do this together, Reverend Lucas. I appreciate the simpatico on that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'll go ahead and launch into my CEO report. I have asked Raj to kind of hang around for the first few slides in case there are any questions as they do get into the finances a bit. So for our first slide here, as you can probably tell throughout the room, we have a choice now whether or not we wear masks or remain maskless on RTA service. This has been a mandate that was voided through a federal court decision on April 18th. As such, RTA has suspended our mask mandate. Some individuals do continue to wear them. I am one of them. For example, it is up to you at this point. We have the suspension and not an elimination because this is a continual sort of process. Thank you. Whereby individuals will acquiesce to the federal mandate as we have continued to do over the months and actual years. The current Department of Justice is appealing the decision. There has been no update at this time, so we do stand with a suspension of the face mask mandate on all RTA facilities and services. The next I'd like to be able to advise on is the temporary promotional programs. This is another code book, Reverend Pinckney there. This one is 840.09, and this one basically authorizes me as CEO to offer incentives or complimentary rides for promotional purposes for the RTA. And so this comes on an ad hoc case-by-case basis. It doesn't come up very often, but when it does, we talk about partnerships and events that are going on that impact the community. They do come across my desk from time to time, sometimes around holidays, others around special events, community programs and the like, and I do review them on a case-by-case basis. It is part of our fiduciary responsibility. Raj and myself, Raj as a secretary-treasurer to the board and myself as CEO, to report this to you on an annual basis. So we actually are coming to you with 2 years of information for 2020 and 2021. The years have yielded pretty nominal amounts. However, we thought it was prudent to make sure that we're in line with the code and give you the update. So for 2021, we had 2 programs where I did allow reduced passes for 2 nonprofit entities with special events affecting the community, and that was in the amount of $732.50. 2020 was a little bit larger. There was 1 event for a nonprofit. Raj can actually give you a little bit more information on that one, as he was the negotiator through that allowance from me for 1,500 all-day passes at a 50% discount to support that event, and that totaled $3,750. And Raj, if you have a little bit more information on that in case there are questions from the board.
So I think that these nonprofit entities that do approach us from time to time are community-related affairs. India Birdsong, I believe a couple months ago, had reported on one of the events, which is the one that we're looking at for 2020, which was the Homeless Stand Down. And that was an organization that we wanted to support historically, have supported, and in accordance with the temporary promotional programs, the provisions applied to it, and those are the results that you're seeing. Questions?
Okay, thank you. All right, pretty easy, but we wanted to make sure you had that information. And if you can't hear me, let me know. I think I'm pretty clear even with the mask on. So we also wanted to be able to give a quick teaser. This is almost like your save the date, if you think about it that way. We do have a traction meeting. That's an internal data meeting. It used to be called Transit Stat. We're evolving with our data. There was a call to action internally to be able to sort of codify and quantify what we do on a day-to-day basis, and also make sure that we're enacting our strategic plan, which is a 10-year lofty plan with a lot of aggressive goals. So part of this is dubbing our meeting Traction. We meet on a monthly basis internally. However, we will report to you publicly on a quarterly basis. This is the dashboards, if you remember the scorecards. That was a little cryptic. We're trying to make sure we get a hold of that. And we're really proud to say that our first quarter data is in. So we actually will be debriefing internally this month in April and then coming to you in May. That will be our cadence. We'll have the first quarter of data, surveys included. Those are your customer experience surveys, layered on top of the actual deliverable metrics that we have internally. We wanted to be able to weight that. If you remember, we talked about Net Promoter Score. That's kind of like your Yelp review. How likely are you to recommend RTA? So the gentleman mentioned this morning, I believe it was Mr. Barkley, that there was an issue with a horn beeping which caused someone to be late. That kind of thing matters to us, and we have to start to quantify that and layer that on top of what we're doing. I will take that from you, but I appreciate that, and that's the kind of thing that we have to be able to weigh. So if we're meeting all of our deliverables, have our capital programs and our grants and our buses coming in, but we still can't meet the need of the community, then we have a lot of work to do. And so we wanted to be able to kind of weigh that against each other, so we had a real number and a real story to tell when it comes to talking about improvement. So this is our first quarter. It will include, like I mentioned, all of the surveys that we had. We had an external surveying group go out and do that as well. So that brings a level of unbiased opinion, right? And then we get into our Net Promoter Score. So we'll be happy to bring that to you in May. Also wanted to give you another save the date. This is for the Easy Fare mobile ticketing kickoff event. We're really excited about that. Ms. Payot mentioned that a little bit in her report for the ad hoc technology. We have a lot of new things that are coming up by way of software. Michael Lively, our director of ITS, is leading the charge in that, and Christy Cox, our marketing manager, is leading the communications effort with this event. This will be inclusive of a lot of representatives from other transit authorities, Masabi and Neo Ride. I also will be presiding over that event as far as comments, and we're coordinating with other transit agencies, including Lake Trans, SARTA, and Metro. And this is really just an example of how we're really looking at more of a regional approach when it comes to connectivity and using technology to do that. So we're excited about that. It's Public Square, June 22nd. So if you have a moment and you find yourself wandering the downtown, please stop by and see us. So we also wanted to take a moment to introduce or reintroduce in some respects 2 new team members that will be reporting to Natoya Walker-Minor in the Administration and External Affairs group. So first up, we have Bob Fleeg. Bob is in the corner there. Congratulations, Bob. He is actually the recipient of a promotion. So we're really excited about it. Bob comes to us actually from having 30 years of experience in public relations, marketing, and communications. He will serve as our PIO, or our public information officer. We actually found a diamond in the rough. Doc, sorry about that. We did pluck him out of the ICC, our control center, where he was there for about the last 5 years or so, serving as kind of the command specialist when it comes to special events and media. So he has a pretty deft hand when it comes to being able to translate all of that scheduling and information to the public. So congratulations, Bob. He also has worked, I want to make sure I note this, at Swagelock and Rockwell Automation, and also is a Navy vet as an intel specialist or intelligence specialist. So very well accomplished, and we were glad that we had him on board. Also wanted to introduce Ms. Sharon Jenkins. She is actually here in the audience. Congratulations, Sharon. Sharon will serve as our Director of Marketing and Communications. She will report directly into Natoya. We're really excited to have you, Sharon. She comes to us from Lake Metro Parks, where she served as the marketing director for many years. She has over 20 years of experience in marketing and communications, facility and operations management, and programming and event management. So needless to say, we're in good hands, I think, with Ms. Jenkins to be able to really lead the charge in pushing us forward as we've got a lot of work to do, and we want to make sure we put our best foot forward for the community. So both of them, Sharon and Bob, will effectively start on May 2nd with us. So congratulations again, and welcome to the team. Wanted to also give you a quick update. We had a meet and greet with the City of Cleveland, Mayor Bibb's cabinet, so to speak, here in this room. This was a brainchild when we were in the middle of the snowstorm, the first snowstorm in 2022, the one that kind of took us all out for a minute. And we wanted to really have an opportunity to meet with Mayor Bibb's staff and understand, seeing the faces behind the names. He has a lot of new folks in his cabinet, and we wanted to make sure that we started off on a good foot to be able to work as a team. So this was really great to talk about operations, planning, and future work. We appreciate Mayor Bibb taking a moment out of his time to meet with us, and we'll continue that conversation and coordination as the year continues. Also, talking about the snowstorm, we made good on our promise. We decided to have an inclement weather tabletop. For those of you who may not be aware, a tabletop is typically where you have a strategy session and you have planning and mock situations and all of that good stuff to be able to help prepare you in the event that you have an emergency or a special event that kind of takes over your normal activities. It can take a while. Tabletops normally last 3 to 4 hours. However, I do find them beneficial because it really takes you through the gamut of all of the issues that may occur and do happen because we are subject to weather and the like as public servants. We had this on April 14th. It was hosted here in this room and was facilitated by TSA. We also had the City of Cleveland, Public Works, and Streets and Sand. We had a debrief after the debrief and really had a great opportunity to just be real with each other, if I can say that, and talk about the things that we need to do better to be able to serve you better. I also, just to explain where I have been, I did go to Denver, Colorado for 2 days. It was a transit CEO seminar. I have not traveled in a little while due to the COVID and all of our kind of rescinding on travel like the rest of the world, but everyone's starting to come back out, and we talked about the health and wellness of the CEO. We also talked about things like transit buses. We talked about software and technology, fare collections, ridership coming back online, data, all of these things that are normal challenges within the transit agency, but how they affect the CEO and the cabinet and the top team, and how that trickles down to the customer. So it was really interesting to have people kind of be raw with their emotion. Also, on the heels of losing one of our colleagues, Jeff Parker at MARTA earlier in the year due to suicide, was really eye-opening to be able to understand just the pressure that is involved in the industry that we have and how we really want to make sure that we emerge out of this as a healthier community. So it was definitely good to be able to see folks eye to eye and be able to have those conversations. Just to recap again, transit ambassador recruitment. You did have this information earlier, so I won't go into too much, but we are working with Ohio Means Jobs. We currently have 33 ambassador applicants, and we have 10 social worker applicants that we have received. So we're really excited. We want to be able to take advantage of the applications that we have and not wait. So I know Dr. Kaver has given the explicit instruction to HR and Transit Police to take advantage of those applications as soon as we get them, and we'll start to trickle in and create that staff and get them boots on the ground pretty soon. And with that, that ends my report unless there are any questions from the board. Okay.
Anyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, India, just on the suggestion side, when you do your next inclement weather tabletop, to include PIOs from the city as well as from your division and your new marketing and comms team, because a lot of times that disconnect between the comm side, as you know, is what can throw off the whole communication. So I would even include the PIOs, even if it's just to have them listen in, and then at the end, let them help to debrief. And I would also do a PIO introduction, at least with some of the bigger departments at the city, with your new PIO person, safety, Public Works doesn't have one, but just to do that introduction.
So, Ms. McCall, we appreciate that, and I definitely am hearing you. We are thankfully one step ahead, and I have discussed that with Bob and Natoya at length, and we are actually planning on doing that outreach and making sure that Bob can kind of get into those efforts. So, absolutely.
And obviously the county and others as well, too.
Sure. Great suggestion. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Certainly, my report has been lifted most of the time. You know, it's been my desire, because I don't consider this my administration, but our administration, and I really appreciate the hard work of the board members as they have worked with their committees, and also when I've called upon them for various things that needs to be done. I've been pushing pretty hard to see some things come to fruition. That's why when we talked about having 44 new buses on the yard this year, we've been moving on that. Certainly the ambassador program, and soon behind that the civilian board. Just one thing after another. I felt very good that through all of this, all of our staff, every bus driver has not lost a dime. No one has been laid off. We've been able to have full cooperation all the way through. Certainly from the staff, that some of them who sit here, many of them are at their desk, are tuned in this morning. I want to say thank you. There's rarely a day that I'm either not down here or on the phone about something or another, and I always get such good response. So thank you very much for another busy week. Any old business? Any new business? If not, we'll go back to Public comment.
Good morning again, everybody. I'm Reverend Pamela M. Pinckney Butts. I added Butts to my name because that's my mother's maiden name. And I don't think women have to give up everything to be in a marriage, and I'm not married. I'm asking the chairman, may I have 2 extra minutes, please, because I need to bring some concerns from your employees also that I brought to the meeting this morning to speak.
Give me the 2 first.
Okay. The first thing I wanted to bring to you all's attention, this is the Superior Station today that I've been talking about that's been down for 2 years. So Chairman, Reverend Lucas, I brought a photo so you can see, get a visual of what is actually taking place. And I've gotten a lot of reasons why it's not done yet, but when I heard you talking about things that are not, Dr. When I heard you about things that are unfunded, that's one of the things that came to mind. And some, inclusive of some of my concerns are the operators have not received their retro pay and they feel like you all are dragging their feet on their money and their time. And we don't want unhappy operators. As I was sitting here and I noticed the new media and communications people, I don't see people of color in the media process, and that's a big problem in this country. One of the things is there's an image that goes with media that is not conducive for all people, and I'm asking RTA to have some people of color also in the media if you have to add 2 more and pay salaries for them to work with the Caucasian or the white media people that are in place who will also do an effective job. I thank you for breaking down the gender barriers in that area.
30 seconds.
Also, we have a very serious giant in the land called homelessness. On my way here, there were 2 people on the manhole sleeping on West 3rd Street, right in front of the hotel. And prior to that, I had been talking to someone in the Tower City who does the rail. And I asked her, I said, do you have any concerns for the board meeting since you all can't come to the meeting? And she said, the homeless population. She said, we called transit police to have them removed, but that doesn't do it. And we don't need people incarcerated. A lot of people are homeless because of incarceration, mass incarceration. And we don't need people targeted like objects. They're homeless people, not homeless projects. And I asked RTA to look into that. I've been attending the last couple city council meetings, and I've been hearing some of the young people coming, addressing some of my concerns that I've been also addressing for over 20 years about not just the fair process, which is the fair process is unfair because it oppresses poor people, disadvantaged people, and many other people, and wealthy people don't always get the punishment. And going to jail over a $2 ticket is defeating all of our causes. I want us to look into this, not to fight. And I left here when I last saw you all very frustrated with all of this. And these issues touched my heart to the point where I ended up sick and in a hospital. And I left Ohio because I've been pouring my heart into this transportation system for over 20-some years. And some of it was a result of my protection order not being enforced. It was violated, and I ended up losing everything. People are not always homeless because of mental illness. People are not always homeless because of something bad that they've done.
Wrap it on in, Reverend.
And RTA needs to be more accommodating. When I first started coming to these meetings, we used to give out passes to people, and we were doing a lot of very good things for people. And in my final comment, I want to also say that mental illness is very real. And people don't need to be targeted on RTA who are mentally ill, and I've seen that. And we need to stop all the discriminatory practices that are taking place in our transportation system outside of our transportation system. And Mr. George Dixon died because he was targeted because he was doing an investigation inside of RTA for discrimination and coming from RTA in the public. And Mr. George Dixon is a big loss to me. I love Mr. Dixon, and I'm gonna miss him. And I hate that he went out like that, as well as Mr. Joseph Calabrese. We've come a long way, Mayor Weiss. We've come a very long way. But we've got a long way to go. And we need to work with the church community to get this done. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
All right, next, anybody else here in person?
Yes, good afternoon now. No, still morning. I also asked for at least additional 2 minutes because.
You know, when everybody's asking for additional, I'm going to.
Well, for the public that's here, they need to at least
hold on.
have that extended to them. There aren't many
Mr.
of us
Barkley,
here.
Mr. Barkley, we're going to have to hold to the 2. Go ahead.
You can barely get your thoughts together in 2 minutes. And this board has paid a lot of money in their positions. They have inexhaustible time to say their piece. And so this is a systemic issue now where we have to be compressed into 2 minutes. And I want to tell some of my nightmares, like being legally blind and standing on the corner of Mayfield at 11 o'clock at night, and your number 9 bus driver, because of the mask mandate and because of his insanity, watches me in 19 below degree weather, watches me and says, "You're not getting on my bus because you don't have a mask," and drives off. I called the EMS, but the EMS was so slow that I had to be rescued by another bus that came after the 9 left me. And this was back, well, I called in on it. I've had so many things happen to me being legally blind trying to catch these buses that the lines are kind of blurred, the incidents are kind of blurred. And I definitely should be a part of your media and marketing team because that's what I do in this city. When I came back in November, I started filming murders with Art McCoy. And I was catching the bus filming those murders. And it was freezing cold out there, and your drivers
30 seconds,
were
sir.
leaving me in the cold. I have so many incidents that it's exhausting to me. And there needs to be a change of culture with these drivers, black drivers who look like
10
me
seconds, sir.
on the east side of Cleveland. That must begin to happen now, please.
All right, anybody else? Lou, I know you're here. There you are.
Good morning again. The cultural issue is a very important issue, same as the communication issue. These are definitely connected tightly. Now, for GCRTA getting all the ridiculous funding cuts from state or even from other sources, this is really hurtful. Unfortunately, GCRTA's public image also got ruined because of that. For example, our rapid station right now have no elevators and no public restrooms. Why? People say it's because GCRTA think that it's all homeless people ruin all these facilities. It's right and it's not exactly right at the same time because we know for today's age, parts and labor to maintain all these facilities, to maintain them in the good function for public safety and public health is also costly. So I think the better way is, in the future, we have to really work on not just our public image by itself, through the communications and our continuous education on that, GCRTA should also recognize the importance that getting funding to get a rail cars is important, but at the same time, trying to get a funding for certain things which may, as a part of the health and human services in the public service side of it, is also as important. In that case,
30
GCRTA
seconds,
will not
ma'am.
carry the wrong image due to something out of GCRTA's complete control. And I really wish this year it will give us a chance. If all the fundings are coming out from federal government, we should start pushing the state as well. In that case, lots of things can be
10
restored.
seconds, ma'am.
Remember, we did have a good service, but it was 1990s. People living now, suffering, struggling. We need your help.
Time, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anybody else here? Public comments? Anybody else? Do we have anybody on the line?
Patrick, is there
We
anyone
have
online?
3 callers who have stayed with us.
Okay.
Caller extension 9716, you're on the air. Do you have any further comments?
First caller, you could go ahead and start
Yes,
speaking.
this is Sarita Montgomery again. I just wanted to clarify because I wasn't sure when I'm not sure who it was, if it was India Bird's song or who got back on in reference to my comments about the call-in line being on the board website. That is what I was speaking to. And also on the board website, there isn't a link to be able to view, to attend the meetings via video. And again, I'd like to also reiterate my concern about implementing the 15A as Eric Stewart proposed. Thank you.
All right, and next.
Caller extension 8330, you're on the air. Caller extension 8330, do you have any further comments for us?
Next caller.
Okay. Caller extension 0387, please go ahead.
This is Eric Stewart. Jeff Macco, extension 3563048. You have a message from me from yesterday. Eric Johnson, you have a message from me as well, 3563113. To the attention of all of you that are employed by RTA that are in decision making, the number 15A, if it starts at Pinecrest, in the 16-hour period where you're running 64 buses of the number 15, where you should be running that bus every 20 minutes instead of every 15 minutes, and I'm referencing the 15. If you run that 15A hourly and started at Pinecrest, for the first 2 miles, it's in Warrensville Heights going down Harvard. It starts a little bit more than a mile east of where the 15 starts. You'll be able to incorporate it, and you will still essentially have buses every 15 minutes for the first 4 miles of the 15's route, because you'll be running it from Pinecrest down to 177th or from Pinecrest down to 173rd and Harvard. 173rd and Harvard would be a good pick because it brings it within 150 meters of a taxpayer-funded neighborhood public library, the Lee Harvard Library. Then it makes this drift into the interior of Ward 1 and part of Ward 2 and goes down into the intersection of Bartlett and 131st, where there's another taxpayer-funded neighborhood public library on 131st Street. The most common job in the city of Cleveland is a retail job. This 15A will go through Shaker Square.
30 seconds, sir.
Cross the blue line, the green line. At some point, it's going to cross the red line once, and come within a block of it a third time. And it's going to get you to Cleveland State. You can run this bus hourly within a 16-hour period and not have to add any more drivers or buses and get more people on the route. But you're
10
not
seconds,
paying
sir.
attention to the facts. Instead, you're using your imagery to misrepresent the truth to the public. Toya Minor, who grew up in Ward 1 and should have said something at
Time, sir.
yesterday.
That was our last caller.
Is that it?
I believe he said we have one more caller, correct, Patrick?
No, that was our last
Oh,
caller.
this is the last one. Okay, sorry.
That was the last caller? All right.
I misspoke. We actually do have two further callers who've just called in.
I'm sorry.
We actually do have two further callers who've called in. Caller extension 0950. You're on the air.
Hi, this is Carlita with Ward 1. And I'm in reference to Eric Todd's Stewart's plan. It really should be reviewed because you also can touch on Social Security office there on Shaker Square. So that is being a touch point as well. There's libraries being touched as well if they can get to that rapid line as well. So they're touching on a lot of points when you see the reroute or the reconstruction Eric Todd Stewart proposed for the 15A. Also, the 48A, that is an interior route of the city as well. And you have a lot of seniors that need to get that. They need those services. And they should not be ignored. I have a senior on the 15A line that is just a couple of houses from the stop. Now she has to either walk all the way to Kinnison or all the way to 131st. That's a long walk for a senior. So that really needs to be considered. If you're really thinking about helping the public and helping the seniors and helping school-aged children, revisit the plan that Eric Todd Stewart proposed. Thank you.
All right,
All right,
Patrick.
and
we
moving
have
on to our next
one last
caller.
caller.
Caller extension 2137. You're on the air.
Hi, Chris Martin, City of Cleveland again. Trustees, you know, it's clear you have no sense of urgency for any initiatives of this agency. Management says things are moving forward, for example, with a police complaint review board. But it's already been more than a year after when you promised us, you trustees promised us it would be established. Now, on January 27th, 2022, GCRTA's new Public Information Officer, Bob Sleeg, told Freshwater Cleveland that transit ambassadors would be performing proof of payment fare enforcement. I'm curious if that's true. Why, trustees, are the only two memoranda of understanding between GCRTA police and the many jurisdictions, 59 municipalities, plus various other jurisdictions, why are the only memoranda of understanding that exist between GCRTA Transit Police and these jurisdictions with CSU and the city of East Cleveland? Why is there no MOU with the city of Cleveland? Finally, and most importantly, will GCRTA Transit Police commit to only
30 seconds, sir.
citing riders for non-payment of fares under the soon-to-be amended Cleveland ordinance and not under Ohio Revised Code Section 2917.41?
All right.
Before you dismiss, Reverend Lucas, your employees are not able to be here.
All right, and that was our last caller.
I'm asking you all to find somebody that will hear their voices. One of the rail operators on the light rail said they need more cars. They need more rail cars, and another operator to send you all a compliment and said you're doing a great job. But you don't have anybody in your administration that hears the voices of your operators because they're just meeting our needs. They're out here driving and operating the vehicle, so they can't be here, and you're not hearing from them. Would you please look into that and have that?
Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you.
All right. Yes.
Okay, I'll be very fast. Just again, wanted to make sure that folks know that I'm hearing their requests. I'm hearing their sentiments. We have a lot of answers to a lot of questions. I just wanted to pick out a couple things that just stuck with me. So the diversity, equity, and inclusion that we're working toward, we are challenging ourselves to be reflective in who we serve. So our management, our board, our mid-level management, our operators, mechanics, all of that has to be reflective of the community that we serve. And so please understand that diversity also is not just skin color. It is diversity of thought, it is diversity of gender, as mentioned. And so that takes an entire team, and it takes a village. So that's something that I'm very proud of. I'm very proud of the folks that we have brought into the fold, and they're accomplished professionals, and we will hold ourselves to a continual standard to make sure that everyone is inclusive. The other thing I wanted to make sure that we talked about was the idea of the homeless issue. That definitely is something that we're looking into, and it's more than just an RTA concern. So we're starting to have those conversations with county and city and all of that. We've started that conversation as well, so that's definitely coming through. Let me just ask really quickly, because I think we still have Scott in the back, the retro pay issue, if you would follow up with Reverend Pinckney, or either you can give a quick update that's appropriate for this audience, because I believe that we've already had communications with the ATU, our union, so all of that has been discussed. So perhaps if you are hearing from a particular individual, make sure that they let us know. They may not be aware of the timeline, but that's already been communicated. Scott, if you had any update on that.
Yes, just real quickly, Ms. Birdsong, hopefully the changes in the contract language will be signed off tomorrow, so the contract then goes into effect. The rate increases will go into effect on May 1st, and we've negotiated with the union that the retro payments would be made by July 8th, but that's an agreement with the union.
Thanks, Scott. Just wanted to make sure everyone is aware. We work with our union, and our union has been very vocal in what their needs are, and they also are aware of board meetings as well. We have management that lets folks know, but we're continuing to have those conversations. But the contract is on its way to being signed off on. I think it's on my calendar as well, so we're looking forward to it.
No, that's not, people feed their families just like everybody else does. And I think we need to be respectful of one another and how we do our business. And if the person who is to represent them is not communicating with them, it's causing conflict between you all and your operators. And we don't want unhappy people. We want peace. And we want professionalism. And if you can, we'll talk. Number 216-548-0820. You can call me anytime, and I can tell you what I hear.
Yeah. So Reverend P, I appreciate that. Thank you. All right.
All right, very good. Anything else from any board members? If not, the next regular board meeting scheduled for Tuesday, May 24th, the boardroom of the authority. And the public is welcome to attend in person. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second. Not debatable. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you very much. Thank you, dear board. Thank you, staff. Thank you, public.